Hey everyone, welcome back to the I Heart podcast. My name is Jonathan North, and welcome back to the We Heart Awards. This is the second half of a two-part episode where I and my friend Eli Sanza talk all about our favorite things in movies and TV from 2018. In the first episode, the categories were split into two parts, basically a simplified Oscars or Emmys for the first part, and a second part talking about the best in each genre. In this episode, I wanted to get a bit more creative and award all kinds of different things that wouldn't necessarily be honored by a conventional awards ceremony. There are so many great shows, movies, and people out there that maybe aren't necessarily as critically acclaimed or whatever, so I wanted to find a way to talk about some of them in a way that most other outlets won't be. To that end, I decided to just make up my own awards categories. This was partially inspired by Rachel Wagner, who did a similar award show on her podcast, but quite a bit more condensed than mine. Like, mine was so long I had to make 2 episodes out of it. Plus, hers was probably a more conventional lineup of awards compared to mine, but she had some invented categories in hers, which was my main inspiration for this half of the show. Before we begin, like last time, I want to warn you in advance that we had a few streaming issues while we were recording. I think I was able to clean up the worst of it in editing though, so hopefully the minor issues that are left won't be too terrible. Anyway, let's get on with part 2 of the We Heart Awards. So the very first one of these categories, I don't know if you had any because it sounded like you were having trouble figuring out something, but the best music, did you have a choice for the best music?
Oh, yeah. I couldn't think of anything. Like, there was a lot of great music in a lot of movies and shows I can think of, but nothing that stood out I thought is like the best. This was like really difficult, which is why I'm hoping that you did.
I have 3, actually, for completely different reasons. My top choice, of course, is Mary Poppins Returns because the music in that movie was amazing. But then at the same time, I also love the music from Into the Spider-Verse because the way that they incorporated the music just added to how good the movie was. And it's not even music that I listen to. There's just something about the way they used it. It just fits so well and added to the overall feel of the movie. I just loved it. But then my last choice was completely different as well, from a movie that I watched with my cousin Sarah on Netflix from China called Our Shining Days. And it's about a music school, and there's a ton of classical music and traditional Chinese music in it. And the whole thing eventually culminates in this big music battle between the classical side of the school and the traditional side of the school, playing this piece that's supposed to be them fighting, but it's like traditional Chinese music mixing with the classical music to become this amazing musical number. And I just love that. It was so creative and so cool. I love when people use music well, and I thought those 3 movies use music well in completely different ways, in completely different genres, so I had to mention them all.
Our Shining Days, I have to see that because it sounds amazing. But I'm going to try to find this movie.
Yeah, it's on Netflix, so you should be able to find it.
Okay, well, then I'll be able to easily find it then. Okay.
The next category I have is the best world building.
And I decided to go with Hilda for this one.
Okay.
Because you get a good sense that there is more to the world that they inhabit in that TV show than you see, like, than just Trollberg and just the forest. Because of all the creatures, like you see them there, like elves, they're like giants. So like he has a pet deer fox named Twig. Like you can sort of tell that this is a big world that they live in. Like, oh, what else? What other creatures are you gonna see? Like they're gonna make a season 2 of this show, and it's coming out in 2020. And I can't wait to see the world expand, which to me is really good world building.
Yeah, that one is a great choice, but mine is for a completely different kind of world building. I went with Ralph Breaks the Internet. The way that they built the world of the internet, I thought was so creative. There might have been like slight cliches here and there, but there was not too many and not in such a way that it detracted from anything at all. I just thought it was really creative, and it took the ideas from the original and expanded them in such a unique way. I thought it was great.
That's a really good choice because I loved the world in Ralph Breaks the Internet. Their point of view of what the internet would look like if it was an actual world is probably the most creative world building in movies of the entire year, I think. If you're talking about movies, I agree.
So for the next category, we have Best Sketch Comedy.
I think this was something I chose.
It might have been.
I think it was because there was something I wanted to point out that doesn't get a lot of attention. There's this show called Baroness Vaughn's Sketch Show that originated in Canada, and it has a completely female cast: Caroline Taylor, Meredith McNeil, Aurora Brown, and Jennifer Whalen. And it is rare for a sketch comedy show to have an all-female cast, but it also feels kind of different from other sketch comedy shows because it has a female cast, because a lot of the sketches in this show are seen through the perspective of a woman, and you don't really see a sketch comedy show centered around the perspective of women that much, which makes the show really different from other shows. But I thought it was also really sharply written, regardless of the gender of the cast. I thought it was like the funniest sketch comedy show of the year, and I'm a big Saturday Night Live fan, so that's not a small thing to say that I thought this show was better. So if you're a sketch comedy fan and you're looking for something different, this one is really funny and really different. Again, it's called Baroness Vaughn's Sketch Show.
I don't think I've heard of that one.
And not surprising that you've never heard of it because nobody talks about it.
I went with a sketch show from the internet because there really isn't a whole lot of sketch on TV these days. Mm-hmm. So I decided to go with a YouTube channel. Technically, it is a TV show, but it's only in Utah on BYU TV. This is Studio C. I don't know if you would have heard of this, but it's family comedy. It's all clean comedy, but it's so creative and ridiculous and hilarious. Like, a lot of times, if something is for families and has to be clean, they kind of are held back from being as funny as they could be. And I don't know if that's true for them, but even if it is true, they're hilarious either way. It's really creative, really hilarious, stuff you can watch with your whole family. I wish there were more shows like this these days. There really aren't. I think people lean too heavily in one direction or the other, like making too much for kids or too much for adults. There's not a whole lot that is like really right down the middle, like anybody can watch it. And I really like that about Studio C.
Oh, that's cool because like I don't see a lot of sketch shows that are family friendly. A lot of the sketch shows out there are very like raunchy. So this one seems like something that I'm sort of curious about. I might actually check it out.
Yeah, it's really good. Just look up Studio C on YouTube. You can watch like the full episodes on their website, but all of it is split up into the individual sketches for YouTube.
Okay, I'm gonna check it out.
The next category is the best reality series. And this could really be anything from a competition show to a cooking show.
Okay. I went with something that's kind of unconventional, but it came on NBC. It ran for 2 seasons, and then it got canceled. But I enjoyed those 2 seasons hugely because it was a show called Better Late Than Never. It was a reality travel show that starred Henry Winkler, the guy who played Fonzie in Happy Days, William Shatner, the guy who played Captain Kirk in Star Trek, Perry Bradshaw, and George Foreman. All 4 of those guys traveling the world, having new experiences. Season 1 was focused on Asia. Season 2 was focused on Europe. The main reason why I included that show as the best reality show is because I don't normally like reality television at all. Not even the competition shows I'm not really a fan of, but this was like the one show that I actually had to watch because seeing these 4 guys who like were famous in the old days and are now like older, experiencing like these new cultures around in different continents that they know nothing about was really entertaining. And all 4 of those guys are hilarious, and I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. And I cracked up. And like even in the parts that aren't funny, it's just cool to just learn about like Hong Kong and Italy and like all these new places through the eyes of like these old Hollywood guys. It was like a really amazing show and just really hilarious.
I don't think I heard of that one, but it sounds interesting.
It was like actually a remake of a South Korean show called Grandpa's Over Flowers.
That's a great title.
Yeah. I would have never heard of the South Korean version if it weren't for the American version, but I really enjoyed the American version.
Yeah. Interesting. For this one, I don't really watch reality TV very much, with the exception of I will sometimes watch cooking shows with my cousins. So I decided to go with a cooking show. But my original pick was The Pioneer Woman because I just like The Pioneer Woman. I've been following her blog since years before she had a TV show. Every time she puts out a new cookbook, I buy it from my mom for Christmas. I'm just a big fan of her. And her TV show, it's sort of like comfort food. It's just like a nice, quiet show to have on just to relax. I think it's fun to watch her make her food and see her family working cattle and whatever else they do on their ranch. So that was my original pick. And I'm still picking that as one of my best shows. But then I remembered that I also watched a different series from Netflix that was amazing called Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, which is another cooking show, but it was like a 4-part mini series. This woman, her name is Samin Nosrat. I think she's Iranian, and basically she was traveling the world learning about the basic ingredients of cooking. It was just fascinating, partly because you're learning about another culture, many other cultures, but partly because you're learning about the chemical reactions and compounds and things that make up the basics of cooking. It's just a really interesting show. So even though my original pick was The Pioneer Woman, I had to do a second pick because that show was just completely different. Two deserving shows in two different ways, I thought.
Okay, well, I am not someone who like sit down and watch a cooking show. I think my sister watched cooking shows, and I watched it whenever she did. But if she was never born, I doubt I would have ever watched one.
I grew up watching cooking shows with my grandma. We would watch like Bob Ross and Julia Child. We'd watch painting and then cooking. I think that's why I like cooking shows so much, is because watching Julia Child with grandma. Like, I don't watch a whole lot these days, but when I find one that I like, I don't know, it's just basically like comfort food, I guess. Like The Pioneer Woman.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I never heard of any of those shows. I don't know if I would like them or not, but if it's like reminds you of the time you spent with your grandma, that's a good reason to choose them.
I think if you were to watch either of them, I would probably recommend Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. More so of the traveling the world aspect of it. I think it's fascinating to learn about different cultures, but then her twist was that it was through the lens of learning about ways that different cultures cook. I thought it was fascinating all around, not just for the cooking parts. Okay, so the next category is the best animal film. This one I decided to do because it was a category that Rachel was doing in one of her podcasts, and I thought that was just a great idea to look at a film that's based around an animal.
Yeah. This one, I was sort of struggling between two films. I was thinking of choosing Isle of Dogs for this because I didn't have any other category to highlight Isle of Dogs, and I thought this would be a perfect one. And it was a really creative film, and Wes Anderson is like one of a kind. But if I were going to choose the one I actually really thought was the best, I would probably stick with Paddington 2 as the best animal film.
Yeah, I did not see Paddington or Paddington 2. I'm going to try and watch those and maybe do a podcast with Rachel because Rachel loves those movies.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you on Isle of Dogs. I ended up just picking two because I wanted to talk about Isle of Dogs somewhere because it's a really good movie. But there was also a movie that nobody talks about because it was like, it wasn't widely spread. It wasn't widely released. It was basically forgotten about within days of its release. And I think that it was deserving of a lot more praise. This was Sergeant Stubby, An American Hero. This is a historical film based on a true story of a dog that fought in World War One. He sort of joined the army like he was sort of a mascot, but he actually did help during the battles. He helped the soldiers like with rescue efforts, and I just thought that this movie was unique in the fact that it was a kids movie, but a true story about something serious, but in a way that's not going to like scar kids. It's about war, people die, but it's filmed in such a way that it doesn't hide the fact that bad things are happening, but it still frames them in a way that's not going to give your child nightmares, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with you. Sergeant Stubby was a great choice. I've been even thinking about that one. I might have chosen that one as my favorite if I had remembered about it. Although, I can't not choose Paddington 2 because I just love that movie so much. But Sergeant Stubby is a really good choice because I saw that movie recently and because Rachel recommended it, and I really liked it for all the reasons you said.
Yeah, Rachel's the only reason that I even knew about that movie. Just her championing it.
Yeah, she is great for like pointing out films that I would have never even thought to watch. So that's one of the reasons why I like her channel so much.
Mm-hmm. Okay, for the next category, this one we're kind of getting away from titles, and I just wanted to talk about favorite characters. The next two categories, basically, best character and best animated character. And I had so many, it's really hard to narrow down. I hope you had better luck narrowing things down than I did.
Okay, well, my favorite character of the year is Killmonger, the villain in Black Panther, who was played by Michael B. Jordan, who tried to share the technology of Wakanda with his people in the United States in order to help them advance the way that the people in Wakanda were advanced. I really like this character because his motivations were grounded in like reality, and he basically just wanted to save his people from like being oppressed and have them be able to fight back when they're in danger. And that was the main reason why he wanted to be the king of Wakanda, so that he could help his people. And I really like the line he had at the end of the movie. I'm going to quote him. He said, "Just bury me in the ocean with my ancestors who jumped from the ships because they knew death was better than bondage." And I thought that was like one of the best lines of the entire year in movies. And I thought it was like one of the best final lines of a villain in movies. And that was one of the reasons why I liked that character so much, really. He just was a really well-defined character with deep motivations.
Yeah, he was a different kind of villain. I thought he was a great villain, both in the fact that he was a great adversary and the fact that even though you didn't agree with what he was doing, you still understood why he was doing it. I just thought he was great too.
Yeah.
So my favorite character, I have two. It was very hard to narrow down, but I decided to go with these two mainly because they just make me laugh. And like my favorite things are shows that make me laugh. I went with these two characters because they have the same name, and I just thought it would be funny to talk about them. They're both named Kimmy. So we have Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, who that show is just absolutely, utterly ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I love Kimmy. She is an eternal optimist, and I love that about her. And every time she comes on screen, she just turns my day around. She's hilarious and funny, and I love her.
She's one of my favorite characters. Like, I love that show just like you.
Yeah. Then we also have a character from a show that is not as good as Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
Mm-hmm.
However, I love Kimmy Gibbler on Fuller House. The show is mediocre at best. I'm like constantly disappointed by how not as good as the original it was. And maybe I'm just looking at the original through nostalgia. Maybe it really wasn't as good as I thought it was. But I still love Kimmy Gibbler. She's the reason that I'm continuing to watch the show, even though I'm constantly disappointed by it. She's just ridiculous. She's hilarious and over the top. And like Kimmy Schmidt, Kimmy Gibbler will turn my day around just by being ridiculous.
Yeah.
I just love her. She's so hilarious.
I watched Full House. I think I've seen every episode of Full House because when I was a kid, we watched it in syndication. And I think Kimmy Gibbler was probably my favorite character in the entire show because he was, as you say, very ridiculous and hilarious. And I haven't seen a lot of the new show, Fuller House, but from what I've seen, he's entertaining in that show too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's the reason that I've stuck with it. The rest of the show, like I said, mediocre at best. I'm constantly thinking, why we're doing this thing when it would have. I don't want to really get into it. I'm constantly disappointed by the show, but I keep it because I love King So then the next category is the best animated character.
Best animated character, I might go with BoJack Horseman. When you first watch that show, BoJack Horseman on Netflix, he kind of seems like a simplistic character. He's just like sort of mean to people, and because he's so like grouchy, because his career has gone downhill ever since his like sitcom from the '90s, Horsing Around, got canceled, but the fact that the makers of that show wrote him as kind of depressed, sort of like unraveling, you sort of feel sorry for him in a way. And they wrote him in a way that makes him a little sympathetic. Even if you don't like him, you sort of understand why he's like such a jerk. And you don't normally get like such a nuanced take on animated characters because a lot of animated characters are written simplistically.
Mm-hmm.
But I really thought BoJack Horseman is one of the best written animated shows. And as a result, the characters are some of the best animated characters too.
Yeah, this is another one where I have so many favorite characters, but I decided to go with one mainly because the show ended in 2018, and I figured this was the last time I could talk about her, so I wanted to talk about her. I went with Ahsoka Tano from Star Wars Rebels. I've loved this character since Star Wars Clone Wars. The things that they've done with this character, I feel like they elevate her far beyond what a normal Star Wars character is. You've watched her grow from being a kind of annoying little kid into someone who is very much their own person, so much so that she abandons the Jedi because she realizes that the Jedi, they're not as good as they think they are. And she walks away, she leaves them. And then in Star Wars Rebels, it takes place years later and you meet a grown-up version of her. And it's both good to see her again and amazing to see how far she's come and the kind of person that she's become in the years between the shows. And then her final scene in the series finale makes you know that there's more to come. Even though the show is ending, her story is not ending. I love this character so much. Of all the Star Wars characters, most shows, she's like one of my favorite characters of all time. She's just so good. I just love her.
No, I loved Ahsoka Tano like ever since I first saw her in like Star Wars Clone Wars. She was like a great character. Like I don't know why. I think it's just because like you sort of see everything through her eyes, and it kind of makes her like one of the most relatable characters.
The next category is the best sequel.
I thought this was the best sequel of the year. Ralph Breaks the Internet. And the main reason why I think that is because it was like better, I thought, than Wreck-It Ralph. And if you can make a sequel that's better than the original movie, which is not an easy thing because a lot of people don't realize how hard it is to make sequels. Like even though you think it's easy because you already have all the characters established in the first movie, so all you have to do is do another story with these characters. It can be difficult because if the first movie does well, it's hard to know where to go from there, or if it's even necessary to have a sequel. You have to justify the fact that there's a sequel and not make it seem like it's pointless. And this one completely justified itself because I thought that the moral of Ralph Breaks the Internet was even better than the moral in Wreck-It Ralph. Wreck-It Ralph, it's like way beneath Ralph Breaks the Internet. I thought Ralph Breaks the Internet was like 1,000 times better, in my opinion. But yeah, I thought that one was the best sequel of the year.
Yeah, that's a good choice. And I probably would have picked it, except I decided to give this one to Mary Poppins Returns as well. It was amazing, and I can't give it enough praise.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you at all because I loved that movie and it was a sequel,
Mm-hmm.
so it counts. And and it was really entertaining and really fun, and I loved it too. I can't praise it enough either.
The next one, I decided to separate this one out because if I didn't do this one, these could just all be folded into like the sequel category. So I decided to do a category just for the best franchise film. So I'm thinking of this as anything that is a giant series, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe or the DC Universe movies or Star Wars.
All right. And well, in terms of like big popular franchises, I would be remiss not to choose Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse again, because if you compare Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse to like Black Panther and Avengers Infinity War, I really liked Black Panther and I really liked Avengers Infinity War. Those movies were, I thought they were amazing and they would have been at the top of my list. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was just on a whole other level that was incomparable. And just if you're comparing it to any other big franchise, like it has to be number one. I just had to go with that one.
Well, I wasn't thinking of that as being part of a franchise, but I do agree that if I was thinking of it in that way, it would be. So I went with Solo, a Star Wars story.
Okay.
I loved that movie, and I thought that it deserved to be mentioned more than once, just because it's sort of, I think people are kind of forgetting about it, or they never even saw it to begin with. And I just want more people to know how good Solo was. That was my favorite of all the big, like the MCU, DC, Star Wars. That one was my favorite of the year. Spider-Man and Spider-Verse I was thinking of as sort of a separate thing because I think it will be in a franchise, but it's sort of like at the beginning, like there's going to be a franchise spun from Into the Spider-Verse. That's why I was thinking of it as its own thing right now. But of all the other ones, Solo was my choice.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, Solo makes sense. Like, I'm glad that you're pointing out Solo because I never even thought to point out Solo in any of these categories. But that is a good movie that deserves recognition. And to your point about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse not being like a part of a like huge franchise yet, like if what you're saying is correct, like I would probably, if I had to change it, the only reason why I chose Spider-Man Into Spider-Verse is because I thought of the Spider-Man franchise was well established, and so I thought it was part of that. But if that one didn't count, I would definitely go with Black Panther.
Okay,
that would be the one I would think.
So then the next one we have the best Disney film. Anything that Disney released this year, you can count it as a Disney film.
Something that I thought was a little surprising that I thought was the best Disney film of the year, because I was not expecting this to be my favorite Disney film of the year, but I'm going to go with Ralph Breaks the Internet, because I thought that movie, I really liked that movie because it had one of my favorite lessons ever in a film, which was the idea of how to navigate friendship and how to be mature enough to let your friends go. Even if you're uncomfortable with your friends doing something, you have to let your friends do anyway that makes them happy. And that's what Ralph was learning in his friendship with Vanellope. And it was one of the reasons why I liked it more than Incredibles 2, is because I really liked that message, and the way they conveyed it was done really well.
Yeah, if we were picking solely on animated films, that definitely would have been my favorite Disney film of the year. But since we're also including live action, I had to go with Mary Poppins Returns again.
Yeah, no, totally.
It's so good, and I couldn't honestly give it to another film when Mary Poppins was just so good.
I could actually just have a whole podcast talking about Mary Poppins Returns. That movie was so good. I could just keep going.
Yeah, definitely. The next category is the best book adaptation. So anything that was adapted from a book.
Okay. I'm not a huge book reader. I'm more of like a movie guy, and I don't pay attention to like what movies are based on which books. But I had to go with, I thought about it, and I thought that Ready Player One was a good one to choose for this. Ready Player One, the movie, I thought was better than the book. And I was a fan of the Ready Player One book by Ernie Klein, but I thought the characters were written in the movie a little bit better than they were in the book. And also the main reason is the idea of seeing the world in the book come to life in the movie. It was just that after reading that book, finally seeing it in the movie was just so satisfying. And it was like just as cool as I was hoping it would be. The Oasis, I think it was what it was called. And it was just Steven Spielberg really knows how to do these kind of films. And it was like my favorite Spielberg film. Like it used to be Jaws was my favorite Spielberg film until I saw this movie, which is really amazing. And so like for that reason, I had to go with this as the best book adaptation, especially since as I said, I enjoyed it more in the book.
Mm-hmm. So for mine, I went with A Series of Unfortunate Events. Not just one episode in particular, just the entire series. This was one of my favorite series as a kid. Teenager, I think, is when they started coming out. But I loved this series so much that even when I was off in college, I would still buy the books. And I liked the movie, what they did, some of the choices they made, but ultimately I found the movie disappointing. And I was apprehensive when they announced the series, but also excited because a series gives you more time to work with the material in the books. And I think that what they've done, taking the books and realizing the events of the books on screen, but also expanding them and fleshing out things that you wondered about but didn't know, and then adding in a few more characters that make things come together even better. The books, they're kind of hard to 100% adapt perfectly to the screen because of the way they're written, the way that the narrator is there, the way the narrator talks. So the series takes everything that it could from the books and then builds it into what they needed to be a TV series. I just thought that the way they adapted it was brilliant, and I love the whole series.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love that show so much. That's a really good choice because I think A Series of Unfortunate Events is one of my favorite TV shows. First of all, I love those books just like you. I was also hooked on those books, and I actually would choose those as my favorite books of all time. Really, they were like really well written books, and so I liked them just like you did. And I was also kind of apprehensive about the TV show because just like you, I didn't like the movie that much, but the Netflix series, which I was sort of apprehensive about, I ended up loving that show because of it was so similar to the book, similar to the spirit of the book. And I loved the spirit of the book, and this captured it really well. This is a really good choice for adaptation. I probably would have went with this over Ready Player One had I remembered about it. Yeah, like I 100% agree with you that this show is amazing because it's one of my favorites of all time.
Yeah, really good. Okay, the next category, I don't know if you found something or not. I know this is one you were kind of struggling with. The best season finale.
Best season finale, yeah. I never found anything for this one because like if I had my choice, I would watch as many TV shows as possible. But realistically, there's so many shows come out that I'm not going to be able to finish all of them. And I rarely ever get to any season finales. So I didn't feel comfortable choosing because it seemed too unfair.
Well, my problem with picking a season finale is that I'm so behind in so many shows that I'm not able to figure out exactly when the season finale is happening or if I've even gotten to it. So I went with the season finale of a show that I just caught up on just in time for it to be canceled. And the season finale for season 2, this is one day at a time. I know you're not the biggest fan. It's not one of my favorite shows, and it is definitely not perfect. It has a lot of problems, but I love a lot of the things that they do on the show. And I loved the season 2 finale, which happened in 2018. And once I realized that finale happened in 2018, I was like, yes, that will be my pick. Because it was probably my favorite episode of the series, the whole series, because I've finished the series now. But in the episode right before the season finale, the grandmother, played by Rita Moreno, she has a stroke. So she's basically catatonic for the most of the season finale. And for the first half, like, her family is coming in to visit her in the hospital, and like each person has a moment with her, kind of like crying, telling her what she means to them. And it's really good, really well written. But then in the second half, towards the end, I think it's night, it's dark, just her daughter is left lying by her side in the bed with her, and her husband comes in. And if you've watched the show, then you know her husband has been dead for years. So you know where this is going. He's come to take her onto whatever comes next in this show. I'm assuming heaven, because she's Catholic. So he comes in. They have this long scene. They're like dancing together and talking about their life, talking about their kids, talking about their grandkids. And then at the very end, he asks her if she's ready to go. And she says, "Not yet." And like the show is filmed in front of a live audience. The audience erupted in cheers. I was like practically cheering inside. She's not dying. She's my favorite character on that show. I did not want her to die. And he accepts this. They have their moment. They say goodbye. He'll be back someday. But I don't know, everything about the way that episode was, I loved that episode so much. Like I said, the show is not perfect, but I loved the characters. Her in particular, Rita Moreno, is just so good. She's the main reason that I'm very sad to see that show go, because I love her, and I want to see more of her. I hope that if the show is not saved somewhere, I hope that somewhere she gets work in something, because she's so good. I love her so much.
I love Rita Moreno too. I want her to keep working. And I do think One Day at a Time, I talked about how I wasn't a fan of that show, but I am a huge fan of a lot of things about the show. The issues that they tackle in the show are kind of things you don't normally see in sitcoms. And I feel sort of bad for like not being a fan of it, because I wish I liked it more because of that stuff. But I totally am okay with other people liking it, and I'm glad that they enjoy it so much.
Yeah, like I said, it has problems, but it has great characters, and Rita Moreno's the best. I loved her. Yeah. That's why I had to pick that episode for my best season finale. And then we have the best series finale, which is another one. I don't know if you would have found something, but I had a couple that I wanted to talk about if you didn't have one.
Yeah, I don't have anything. You go.
I have one that it is my best choice, but I also wanted to talk about the Adventure Time season finale, because Adventure Time was on for 10 years, and I thought that they ended it perfectly. They brought closure to everybody's stories. They framed it in such a way that you know that the world of the show will keep going on. I loved the finale. I thought it ended very well. Even though I didn't really want the show to end, I'm glad they ended it well. So I wanted to mention that season finale. But the true best series finale of the year was Star Wars Rebels. I did not know how they were going to end this show, because of the time frame that the series is set within the Star Wars universe. You know that there are no Jedi when Star Wars began, like the original trilogy. There was no Jedi other than Obi-Wan Kenobi. And you have Kanan and Ezra, and you're wondering throughout the whole series where this is going to go, because you know they're not in the movies. So like an episode or two before the series finale, you had Kanan died. I kind of figured that was going to happen, but at the same time, you still have Ezra, who has been training throughout this entire series to become a Jedi. And realistically, unless they change the canon significantly, there's no way that he could survive. But they found a way to end the series, getting rid of him without killing him off, so you know there's a chance he can come back, and bring closure to the overarching story of the series and the different characters. And they did it in such a way that it felt like a satisfying finale, even though you know that there's more to come, because this is just the beginning of the war that started Star Wars. This is basically a prequel series to the original trilogy, but they ended it in such a way that I thought it was absolutely perfect, that I never anticipated it ending in a way that I felt satisfying, and they managed to do it. So that is my
Mm.
actual pick for the best series finale of 2018.
Okay, yeah. No, I hear Rachel, she likes that show so much, and I am so behind in that show. I'm like still on like one of like the first few seasons, but I can't wait to get to that like episode because like I hear even up to the series finale, the show was like really like it improved. It got like really good, and I'm not surprised that they managed to pull off such a great series finale. I just want to watch it so I can enjoy it just like you did.
Yeah, it's really good. I was very pleasantly surprised with how well it ended. The next category, well, the next few categories, they were ones that I had ideas for things that I wanted to talk about, but I didn't really know how to categorize them. So I just wanted to talk about the best surprises of the year, whether movie, TV, whatever. So the first one of those is the best surprise TV or movie. And I classify that as something that came out of nowhere and blew you away, or something where you expected the worst and it definitely was not the worst.
Okay, I think just to let you know, I think this might be the last time I do this, but I think I'm gonna go Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse again for the surprise TV movie, and I'll explain. It's very rare that a superhero film like surprises me anymore. Most of them are like pretty formulaic up to this point. That most of them are pretty formulaic and to varying extents. But I was blown away by how different Into the Spider-Verse was from every other film I've ever seen. Not just superhero movies, but just film in general. Whether it's the art style or the animation style, or the fact that the main character of that movie just looked like me. Like I'm a mixed race kid from the city, and the main character in that movie was a mixed race kid from the city, like who had a life that was very like similar to like my life living in Oakland. It was surprising. It was to see that because I've never seen it before, and I wasn't expecting that to happen in a blockbuster film with a major franchise behind it. So like I have to go with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse for the best surprise because like it was literally the best surprise of the year for me.
Yeah, it was good. That one wasn't as much of a surprise for me because I expected that I would like it. I guess the surprising thing about it for me was that I loved it. Like
Yeah.
it was so good. I have two choices for this category, and both of the choices are for different reasons. One is something where I expected the worst and it was not, and one was something that came out of nowhere and blew me away. So the one that I expected the worst was Teen Titans Go to the movies. Like
Oh.
I wasn't one of the ones who hates Teen Titans Go. I've only seen a couple episodes. I thought it was a fine show. It's not like something that I watch all the time. Obviously, it's been on for years and I've only seen a couple episodes.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect it to be really good, and it was really good. It seems like the kind of movie that I would not like. It's a lot of it is aimed towards kids. There's a lot of bathroom humor that I really didn't enjoy. But the
Yeah.
story that they built around that kind of thing was surprising to me. How detailed and true to the comics, but putting their own spin on it. Plus the fact that it's a musical and it's ridiculously hilarious.
Yeah.
Everything about that movie was surprising of just how good it ended up being.
I was totally surprised by it too. And like in a way I wasn't too surprised by it because like Teen Titans Go, I've watched the show on Cartoon Network and I enjoyed it. It wasn't a bad show. And this movie I thought was pretty much the same level of quality as the TV show to a like a little bit a higher degree because this was like really witty and like
Mhm.
sharp. American animated films usually aren't as clever as this one. But this one, especially what you just said about the fact that it was a musical, it was like really, that was probably the most surprising thing about it. Like a DC movie that's a musical, like you, so weird, but it was so funny and hilarious.
Yeah, very surprising. My other choice for best surprise was Crazy Rich Asians. I wasn't really expecting anything. I just went to it because Constance Wu was in it. I just thought it would be one that I would watch once in the theater and then never see again. But I bought it as soon as it was released. It was so good. The acting was great. The story was great. The setting was amazing, something you don't see all the time, like hardly ever. Hardly ever get movies in America like set in anywhere in Asia like that,
Yeah.
to that level, and just everything about it. I love the movie. It was so good.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, rom-coms aren't your favorite genre, and they're not my favorite genre either. So it was a little surprising that I loved it so much, but I really did love it, and it really was one of my favorite films of the year. And I totally agree with you. It was amazing, and I wouldn't mind owning it either. I might buy it too.
The next category is the best surprise actor or actress. Someone that you'd never heard of that was amazing, or someone that you previously thought may not be that great, but they totally proved you wrong.
Okay, well, for this one, I'm going to go with. I know you didn't see this movie, but I'm going to go with an actor from Paddington 2 named Hugh Grant. And well, we were just talking about the genre. We don't normally like rom-coms. He normally does rom-coms. And since I'm not a big fan of rom-coms, I don't normally see him in a lot of movies because those are mostly the kinds of things he does. He was in Four Weddings and a Funeral, Bridget Jones' Diary, and some period pieces. He just epitomized the type of person who I never see in movies because he's epitomized my least favorite genre. But he played the villain in Paddington 2, which was kind of surprising. And he was really hilarious in Paddington 2 as the villain. And he played a guy named Phoenix Buchanan, a failed actor who frames Paddington for theft. And he was probably my favorite character in the movie, possibly. He is an entertaining character, and I wasn't expecting that from a guy who is known for playing rom-com.
Okay. Like I said, I haven't seen that one yet, but I do plan to, and I'll be looking forward to seeing what he does. So for this category, I have two choices, both for different reasons again. The first one, like they're kind of the same reason, but in different ways. The first one I have is Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo. So I chose him because I really didn't know what to expect, because he's not Harrison Ford, and he didn't really look like Harrison Ford. And I didn't really know if I was going to be able to believe that he was Han Solo. But within the first 10 minutes, I completely forgot that it wasn't Harrison Ford. I completely forgot this is a new actor playing Han Solo. He just was Han Solo. And I think that the fact that he was able to do that within the first 10 minutes and have me completely forget about that for the rest of the movie, to me, that was amazing. I thought he was great.
Oh yeah, that's a good choice because like I had the same concern. I was like, how much am I going to like this new Han Solo? Because I loved Harrison Ford. Like no one can compete with him. Like, and they got this guy over here, new guy trying to fill the shoes. But when you actually watch the movie and you just go with it, you're not really thinking about that because you're just caught up in the story. So like it worked out really well, and it was surprising how little I thought about it when I was watching the movie because it was just such a great movie, as you pointed out.
And then my other choice, this is where I thought you were going to mention her, was Aquafina from Crazy Rich Asians.
Right.
I had never heard of her. I might have heard of her. Like, I know I'd seen the trailer for Ocean's 8, but I didn't know who she was. So I think I just heard the name once or twice. No idea who she was. She ended up being pretty much my favorite character of the movie. She was just hilarious. I loved her so much. And that I had to put her somewhere So since I'd never heard of her, she was my favorite surprise actress of the year.
Yeah, that's a good choice. I legitimately have a crush on this girl. Like ever since I saw her in that movie, like she was like so hilarious and like
Yeah.
my favorite character in the movie. So
Yeah.
good choice.
The next category, second to last category, I have best surprise, and this can be literally anything. Interpret this however you want to interpret it.
This is like kind of free for all, just anything.
Yeah.
For best surprise of 2018, I'm going to go with a woman named Hannah Gadsby. She is a stand-up comedian who had a stand-up comedy special called Nanette that was released on Netflix in 2018. And it was an interesting comedy special because I could think of comedy specials that were funnier that came out in 2018, but it wasn't as funny as others. But the subject matter that she talked about was like the most interesting of all the stand-up specials because it was really an emotional TED Talk kind of comedy special because he was describing in a humorous way because he is a comedian, but still he was describing the experiences of being a woman and how crazy it can be and how unfair it can be sometimes, and it gets really raw. And I appreciated that because you don't normally see women talk about this kind of stuff, but I appreciate it. And I thought she made a lot of solid observations about how rough it can be and being a woman, and also how ridiculous men who can be when from the way they treat women, and it just felt like, and that was kind of the reason why it was such a popular special, because just the stuff she talks about is something you never hear people talk about before, and it was really riveting from beginning to end. Yeah, and I didn't even really think of it as a stand-up comedy special because even though there were jokes, it was just so like interesting. It was just like just hearing someone talk just for like an hour. I just really liked it. So, and I never even heard of her. She was just a comedian who came from Tasmania, and I don't know any comedians from Tasmania, but like as soon as I heard people talk about how great this special was, that was when I first heard of her. And then when I watched it, I was like, oh, now I see why people like her so much, because I started liking it too. So Hannah Gadsby is her name, and this Netflix special is called Nanette.
I'd heard the title and the name of that person, but I didn't know what it was about. There's so many things that are being released. There's no way for me to watch everything that everybody's talking about. So I'd heard of it.
Yeah, you don't have to tell me. I'm like barely keeping up.
So for my choice, I have two choices, but they're both sea monsters. And anybody who's watched the big movies of the year probably knows where this is going. The first one is the Kraken, the dubstep dance party at the end of Hotel Transylvania 3, where they defeat the villain with dubstep. that scene was ridiculous, and I loved it so much.
Oh my God, that's a good choice.
And then my other best surprise was Julie Andrews as the sea monster in Aquaman.
Oh yeah,
I had heard.
I heard of that.
I had heard months before the movie came out that Julie Andrews was going to be playing a voice, and somebody had said that she was a sea monster. But by the time I saw it, it had been out a while. I had completely forgotten about that. But as soon as this giant Kraken sea monster thing started talking, I was like, wait a minute, that's Julie Andrews. That was my favorite part of the whole movie.
God, I heard people joking about that. They were saying, well, like Aquaman came out around the same time as Mary Poppins Returns came out, and the people were joking about, wow, it's surprising that of all the movies coming out that week that Julie Andrews would be in, you would think it would be Mary Poppins Returns, but it turned out it's like the least likely thing ever. He plays a sea monster in Aquaman.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
I haven't watched that movie yet, but I am going to, and I'm looking forward to it even more now.
Yeah, I wish she'd had a bigger role. She's only in there for like the one scene, but it was my favorite just because it was her. It's such a I don't know, a departure from her normal film roles.
Yeah, that was a surprise. You're right.
The last category that I have is the best hidden gem. And this can be literally anything that you want to honor that is not covered in any other category.
Okay, I made sure to choose something that was very special to me for this category, Best Hidden Gem. I chose for Best Hidden Gem a TV show on HBO called Random Acts of Flyness. Say that again, Random Acts of Flyness. This, I think, is a hidden gem because, like, I never hear anyone talk about this show. But when I watched it, I thought it was really amazing because it's kind of hard to describe what this show is, but the best way I can do it is it comes on late night. So it's like a late night sketch comedy show, kind of like a sketch comedy show created by somebody named Terrence Nance. And he wrote, produced, and directed it. And it's not a linear kind of sketch by sketch, jokey kind of sketch show like Saturday Night Live. It's not like that. It's sort of more like a fluid kind of pacing. It's like it's a mix of music, documentary, humor and drama and animation and a bunch of different things. Basically a bunch of short films all mixed in one. And the reason why I love it is because it's really creative and well written, and it comments a lot about a lot of issues in contemporary American life, and including like race in America and like the experience of being a Black person in America. It's because like the creator of the show is Black, and the cast is mainly African American. But it doesn't talk about like serious issues in like a preachy way. It just sort of talks about it in like a poetic way. It's kind of like a poetry come to life. It's like very like a bunch of different short films commenting on like the Black experience. It's a very cool show, but hard to describe show, but like a really fascinating show. It's like, for me personally, it was a really cool experience because like I've never seen anything like it. And the best way to describe it is like a sketch comedy show, but it's hardly a sketch comedy show. It's sort of just more like it's sort of like its own genre. I've never seen anything like it. It's really weird, but really cool. Random Acts of Flyness is the name of it.
Interesting. I've never heard of that one at all. Never heard of the title. But I don't have HBO, and if it's not something that's like super popular, I guess that's why I wouldn't have heard of it.
Yeah. Oh, that's why it's called Hidden Gem.
Yeah. Well, my hidden gem is an actress. This is somebody who I don't feel is probably going to get much recognition anywhere. But to me, she's one of the things that holds this show together. There's another person from Fresh Off the Boat. I've mentioned Constance Wu. But I wanted to talk about Lucille Soong, who plays Grandma Wong, the grandmother in the wheelchair. She's probably my favorite character of that show. And I have a thing for old ladies who are hilarious. I don't know why. I just always have loved hilarious old ladies. And she is just the epitome of a hilarious old lady. She's funny. She's a great actress. She has great comedic timing. And the fact that she does most of this while talking in another language and she's still hilarious, I think is great. She rarely speaks English, even though she knows how. She just prefers to speak Chinese. I love her. She's one of my favorite characters on TV, even though she's not like gonna end up getting the recognition of like the main characters of the show. I thought she deserved to have somebody talk about her, and I love her. So that's why she was my choice for the best hidden gem.
Oh, I really love that choice because like I would have never expected that choice of the grandma from Fresh Off the Boat because See, I love Fresh Off the Boat, and I love that. I love everyone on that show, but like to single her out is really brilliant because he's kind of underrated and he is really good. And I'm glad that you're shining a spotlight on on that lady because she's kind of like the comedic secret weapon. She's really funny. I commend you on pointing that out because no one ever talks about her.
No, I never see anyone talking about her. I love her. She's one of my favorite parts of the show.
Yeah. Oh, and Fresh Off the Boat in general. I love that show. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I like a lot of sitcoms, but Fresh Off the Boat is one of my top tier, always watch shows. It's not good in the same way that The Good Place is, but as a regular episodic sitcom, it's one of my favorites. I just love it.
Oh, agreed.
Okay, well, that is all that I have for these categories. That was extremely long. I think I am definitely going to be making this into at least 2 episodes. I've been talking for almost 3 hours, so that's plenty of stuff to make into 2 episodes.
Yeah, go ahead and do that. Yeah, this was really fun, and one of my favorite things to do is point out things that people might not have ever discovered unless they heard me point it out, and I was able to do that here today. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, the main reason I wanted to do this is because, like, everybody always talks about the best pictures, the best actors and actresses, and I did want to do that too. That's why I had that started out. But, like, the reason that I wanted to talk about, like, all the genres and just stuff that we invented was because there's so many things out there that don't get mentioned in the best of shows. And I thought this would be the perfect way to talk about some of those things.
Oh, yeah. Where else are we going to talk about the grandma from Fresh Off the Boat? Come on. Like,
yeah.
Seriously.
Okay, so do you want to tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, if you want to see my takes on like Hollywood or like entertainment history, which is like my specialty, like first I would tell you to go to Twitter. I'm on Twitter at eJunkie2014, and the second main place that I am is ejunkiblog.com. That's my website. But go to Twitter because that's where you'll find the links to the website and all my tweets, which is where I mainly hang out. Twitter is my main thing. So find me there first at eJunkie2014.
Okay, and I'll have links to those in the description as well. Okay, well, thank you for joining me. This is a lot of fun. I think I will definitely be having you back because we had talked about reviewing a movie a long time ago where you wanted to talk about the movie Nosferatu, which I've never seen, but I thought that would make an interesting episode just to find out what you like about it, why you liked it, why you chose it, and for me to see a new movie that I've never seen before. I thought that would be a good idea for an episode, so you can look forward to that.
Yeah, I'll talk to you about Nosferatu because that's just one of the few movies of many that I've seen that probably no one else has ever seen. So.
Okay. Well, we will see you next time then.
Yeah, see you. Thank you.
Thanks again to Eli for joining me for the We Heart Awards. I will have a link to his blog and Twitter if you'd like to check out more of his work. The next episode will be another partial repeat, as I'll be bringing back a short review I did last year for a YouTube video with my friend Katie Fabric. But most of the episodes will be brand new content as she recently joined me to do a Q&A all about her favorite movies, TV, and cartoons. It's always fun to talk with her, so I'm excited for this one. Thanks for watching, listening, however you consume this content, and we'll see you next time.